the biggest premise of the book is that the true addiction on our planet is to suffering, because our secondary addiction, which is whatever that is, alcohol, food, porn, Netflix, bad relationships, right? All of those things are the secondary addiction to make us feel better from our primary addiction, which is suffering.
Well, hello there. This is Kevin Pennell, and welcome to episode 169 of Toward a Better Life. And thanks, dear listener, for tuning in to the episode. Regardless of where in the world you might find yourself, our lives do flow with a natural rhythm if we let them. It's a natural flow of life to ultimately aim balance and harmony. We'll be talking about harmony a little bit later on. Now, this is the timeless message of Toward a Better Life, of balance, and, keep going with the flow and the rhythm of life. That's also performed through implementing balance, harmony, compassion, kindness into our lives personally, culturally, and spiritually, with a little magic thrown in. Now, this all begins with each one of us individually. I like to share these concepts on the podcast from around the world, seeking others of the same heart, spirit, and mind. And through the application of many insights and teachings from the episodes and the guests, we can become better souls, better spirits, true human beings that continue a journey toward wholeness and harmony, not only for ourselves and our children and our children's children, but the generations yet to come. I also offer the opportunity for you to share your prose, your music, your poetry, your storytelling on the program. Just let me know. Please subscribe to the show if you haven't done so already through your favorite podcast platform, and do keep following for weekly magical insights to earth-based spirituality, self-development, and self-care. Also, remember to support the show by leaving your review on Apple and Spotify podcast. And, speaking of support, got some really cool new news for you. Ad-free episodes are now available of Toward a Better Life through Patreon. Now, as a paid subscriber, you can enjoy episodes without advertisements. All you need to do is visit Patreon, search for Toward a Better Life podcast, and once there, you'll see the option to subscribe. Not only will you be able to listen ad-free as a paid subscriber, but there are also discounts available for subscribers for online services, classes, and so much more to come. Do sign up today, and there's a link in the show notes for your convenience to Patreon. Also visit the website, towardabetterlife.com, where you can contact me to learn more about a free discovery call to help you on your journey, along with prior episodes, learning opportunities, and services that I offer outside the podcast, and a few accessories to assist you on your journey. Contact me through my website or send inquiries to kevin@towardabetterlife.com. There. My guest on this episode is Robin Clare. She's a best-selling author and creator of The Harmony Method. Now, that's a transformative framework that guides people to live and lead with a greater ease, clarity, and alignment in their lives. Now, through her book, Harmony, The Frequency of True Success, Robin teaches how to align inner truth with outer life so that success follows naturally. Now, she brings decades of experience as a spiritual teacher, life and recovery coach, and nonprofit executive, blending practical wisdom with deep spiritual insights. Robin helps audiences discover how to move from stress and striving toward the state of harmony, where inspiration becomes purposeful action, and life itself becomes a living expression of authenticity and joy. So let's explore some of the magic of harmony. On today's episode of Toward a Better Life, I welcome Robin Clare. Robin, how are you and where are you located?
I am located in Connecticut, the USA.
And how are you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you. How about you?
I'm doing good, thanks. Okay. So Robin is here, and we're going to be talking a little bit about the Harmony Method here in a minute. But Robin, why don't you give us a little background about Robin and about your journey, and we can kind of go from there, if that makes sense.
Yes. So where do I begin? So I would say for the first half of my life, I had a very normal life. I worked in corporate America. I was mom. a wife, a daughter, very, very busy. But at the same time, I had an addiction, and I was addicted to um, food. I was obsessive eating and bulimia. So I kind of had like two addictions. And then somewhere I began to be called out of corporate America to move to work within my spiritual path. Spirituality was my hobby. Then I went into working in the spiritual field and I started to feel like an imposter because how
Mm.
could I be this spiritual teacher and author? I'm the author of 5 books on how to live your best life. And in the beginning, maybe through the first 4 books, I was in addiction. And I finally came into recovery. I had a very significant bulimic episode where I had blood coming out of my nose and my head
Oh.
was throbbing. And it felt like, honestly, Kevin, it felt like my body had been turned inside out and I could actually feel everything that I was doing to my body through the bulimia. And I finally, I guess, truly hit rock bottom because I think I had been in rock bottom for a long time. And that's something I learned. And throughout that time, I was also writing a book about recovery, and I was still in addiction. So the first time I wrote it, I wrote, "I'm sorry this doesn't work for me. I hope it works for you. Have a nice life." And then I rewrote it in recovery. And then I was called into service again, but for a nonprofit organization called the Seniors Job Bank, where we help people 50 and older find encore careers. And we're kind of like a solution to ageism, which the World Health Organization says is the only form of discrimination left on the
Mm.
planet, meaning no one's addressing it.
Right.
But we are at the Seniors Job Bank. And so I did that. And I thought, oh, okay, I guess I must be done with my spiritual path, which is kind of naive, but I wasn't. And so then I was guided to write the book Harmony, which I believe we're going to talk about
Hmm.
today, which is Harmony, the frequency of true success, which we'll talk a lot more about it, but it's the idea of alignment of your inner world with your outer purpose.
Good.
And I realized when I was writing this book and the 6 elements, that's what I had lived on my spiritual journey, especially in my journey of recovery and in my journey of writing. And so what I realized is that the harmony method is the journey of being successful, whatever endeavor you have.
Hmm.
Whatever you're looking to be better at, whatever you're looking to integrate your inner world and your outer world, um, and kind of be, because what people always say about me, Kevin, is what you see is what you get.
Mm.
And so if I'm home or I'm at the seniors job bank or I'm on a podcast or I'm anywhere, that's what you're going to see
Hmm.
is is who I am. So that's what I wanted to share up front,
Yeah.
that I'm author of Arm Harmony, and I'm looking forward to this podcast to talking about it.
Okay. So let's explore the 6 elements of the harmony method. Let's begin with source of your inspiration to create the harmony method. Is that something you've kind of already shared?
No, not really.
Okay.
So one of the things about me is that I am a messenger for the ascended masters or the divine realm. I call these folks the direct reports to God.
Okay.
These are folks, some some I didn't even know because they didn't walk the earth. And so in my books, I've been given guidance from these spiritual masters to write the book. And this one was so interesting. I was driving to my mentor's house and I pull on her street and I hear these words: commitment, mastery, service, leadership.
Hmm.
And and I'm like, well, that's very cool. That's a very cool path. Commitment, mastery, service, leadership. And I just went on my way. Didn't even think about them. I just went on my way because I'm connected spiritually, odd things happen to me all the time. And so I just went on my way. 2 weeks later, I'm pulling on her street and I hear the same voice: commitment, mastery, service, leadership, and freedom.
Hmm.
And then I really reacted and I'm like, oh gosh, that is so cool. Freedom for sure. Like, who wants things? No one would want anything better than freedom, depending on how you define it. But then I said, you know what? But in all the times that you've given me things to write about, any list that you've given me has been divisible by three, and five is not divisible by three.
This
And
is true.
I can't think of anything better than freedom. And then this voice from the spiritual realm started laughing and said, that's correct, Robin. That's because it's on the other end of the list. And then he said, awareness, commitment,
Mm-hmm.
mastery, service, leadership, and freedom. And I said, oh, that is so cool. And I said, what would you like me to do with this list? And the voice said, nothing for now, just remember the words, which, at this stage, right, you're like, oh God, am I going to remember those words? So I immediately pulled over and wrote them down. And then about a month later, I was visiting a friend. I live in Connecticut. She lives at the top of Vermont.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided to take the train because it was fall foliage. And I thought,
Mm.
oh, how beautiful would that be to take the train, right? It was a 6 hour train ride. But when I got on the train, the same voice came back and said, let's talk about these words. And so I whipped out my laptop and we started talking about each of those words and what did they mean. And for me, the way they were presented to me was the 6 stages of spiritual success, which made sense for me because I was a spiritual teacher. Spirituality was my hobby and my passion. And so it would make sense at the time that they would present these words to me into something that was familiar to me.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I wrote an article for a magazine. I didn't really do anything with it. Years passed, not a tremendous amount of years, maybe 3 or 4 years passed. And I was at a place called Kripalu, which in Massachusetts is a yoga sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just after the current presidential election. And it was so, everyone was so distraught there because, it was a bunch of spiritual people that were not happy with the presidential choice. And we can
Mm-hmm.
leave it at that, right?
Yep.
Um, and got up and I was meditating and I said, "Oh gosh, it's so heavy here. I felt bad." And I said, "Is there anything I should do?" And my guidance said, "Harmony." And I said, "Okay, what does that mean?" Like harmony. Yeah, that would make everybody feel better. And then through the meditation, I learned that those 6 words were the 6 elements of harmony. And I just thought it was interesting, Kevin, because I didn't know that at the beginning, right? But I wasn't ready either. There's a thing called divine timing.
Mm.
And I think that I had to go to, I mentioned this, I think, in between in between my deep, having 3 spiritual centers and harmony book was the seniors job bank. And I really think, which is where I learned truly about service and leadership.
Mm.
And I think I needed more work on that before I could write the book. I mean, awareness, commitment, mastery, I had done that through my inner world, through my recovery. I'm now 9 years in recovery. Um, and so I think I had learned that. And then when we get to like service, leadership, and freedom, we start turning the corner to our outer world. And I think that I needed to really understand what service and leadership was. And I believe that's why I went to the seniors job bank because I really didn't know why I was going other than to pay off my share of my children's student loans. That's what I thought I was going for. But I realized later that I was going to learn about service and leadership, and then ultimately leading to freedom for me. which now freedom is just so different. It's so different now than what it's the words are different than what I thought.
So you're very inspiring, and you're giving a lot of really good information to help not only the listener but actually me as well. Because I
Good.
look at some of these different things and I think, you know, we want to live in harmony in our world. And I think bridging that little thing is where the inner self and the outer world and the wizards of old, I was reminded here recently, is like they are in the world, but they're not a part of the world,
Hmm.
if
Hmm.
that makes sense.
Yeah,
And I think it's just a matter of, I like to use it a lot as dancing on the web of life. And you're not caught by the spider, uh, but you maintain around it, and you maintain yourself, you maintain your service, your freedom, your leadership, your mastery, your commitments, all those sort of things, and how it all works together like it's woven like a beautiful tapestry when you think about it.
it
And
is.
yeah.
It's almost like steps, right? It
Hmm.
feels like steps. And what I love about it and what I do in my book Harmony is talk about harmony not only from my journey, um, but the journey, so many journeys, even the creation of a beautiful art project,
Hmm.
writing a book, getting a job.
Hmm.
Like what are the things you should do to ensure that you ultimately have the job you love and have the freedom of flexibility in your life so
Hmm.
that you're not working all the time or working in a job that you hate. It's that. It's social justice you can use it for. You can use it for a health issue. Like you become aware that you're not well. What are you going to do to get to the freedom of wellness? Like, what are the steps are you going to take? So that's what I find so intriguing about this, the harmony method, this gift from, I call it a gift from the divine,
Hmm.
because we can apply it. If you understand it, you can apply it to every part of your life. So it would be, if you would like, I can share, what are these steps? What do I think they mean? And I say that because after I finished writing the book, Kevin, honestly, I was like, I don't know what this means. I just wrote the book. And then my husband reminded me that I said that about every book I wrote because they're gifts from the divine and I'm interpreting them for everyday people. I think one of my gifts is that I can take difficult things and explain them to people.
Hmm.
And I did that in my corporate career too. Like I was the corporate controller, the money person for all of the corporate areas of a big insurance company. And so I had to explain to them budgeting and finance, and they'd be like, "Oh, that's what that means." Okay, so that's what I think. That's why I think I'm writing these books. Because the thing about spirituality, it's so simple that it makes it so difficult.
Hmm.
The words are so simple, and you're like, that can't be what that means.
We try to make it difficult.
Yeah.
It's actually simpler than what we think it is, but
It-
we live in a complex culture, and nothing can be simple. Really, if you want to believe that, that's fine, but it's
Mhm.
not really the truth. I'm going to say
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
because if we just walk aware, and if we have that sense of, I love the thing that you're talking about being connected, for an example. Connected really piques our awareness,
Hmm.
and how you mentioned that we walk in this state of awareness and we pay attention to stuff, just like you said with your inspiration, that you have that voice that
Yeah.
comes through. I have the voices, and I
Yeah.
get that. And I've learned through the years that, yeah, I better pay attention, because if I don't, I'm going to be sorry down the road. It, and it's
And
the.
and I just said to somebody yesterday, I was doing orientations,
Hmm.
and someone said something, and sometimes I throw in one of these into my day-to-day life. And I said, listen, because he said I was the second person that suggested he do something for a career. And I said, the universe only likes to tell us things twice. If they have to tell us a third time, we're kind of like in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it.
In my fourth book, Feast and Famine, Healing Addiction with Grace, the one that I had to rewrite, the healing path in that book, which comes from Sophia, who is many call the Divine Mother. She many call the Holy Spirit. Even in Judaism, she's called the Shekhinah, and she said pain is inevitable. Suffering is an option, which we've heard before. Buddha said that,
Hmm.
right? Pain is inevitable. Suffering is an option. And then she said surrender is required. And what she meant by surrender is not wishful thinking. Hey, I wish I didn't have to have that drink. It's like, I am done. And you listeners, when you're in true surrender because you feel it in your body. It becomes like a full body experience when you've had enough with
Hmm.
something and you're not going to do it again. And then so pain is inevitable, suffering is an option, surrender is required. And then the last one is grace must be allowed. And I love that one because grace is around us 24/7.
Hmm.
It We just don't necessarily notice it. And so the reason why Sophia said grace must be allowed is because we have to feel worthy of grace too. And sometimes we don't. We're so hung up on what's going wrong or what happened to us in our past. We're so still energized by our trauma that we can't see the grace that is available to us. And so that's why I love the harmony method too, as a way to be inspired to heal that trauma, those and that what's making you suffer in the first place, right?
Hmm.
Because in the book, the biggest premise of the book is that the true addiction on our planet is to suffering. And then because our secondary addiction, which is whatever that is, alcohol, food, porn, Netflix, bad relationships, right? I always think Netflix, I'm going to get in trouble when I say that, when I call it negative. But all of those things are the secondary addiction to make us feel better from our primary addiction, which is suffering. And then as soon as we uh, realize that we're truly suffering and we can surrender it to our higher power, then grace comes in with ways to come into recovery
Hmm.
from not only the suffering, which is, healing your trauma patterns, but also what you might need for healing those secondary addictions.
Okay. So it all kind of comes back to balance and harmony.
It comes
It,
back to balance and harmony. That's
yeah.
right. Because even for me, that terrible incident, that last bulimic episode made me acutely aware that I am going to die if I continue to do this. So, and then what is it that I really need to do in order to stop doing this? And
Hmm.
that really meant really taking seriously, committing to healing my trauma patterns that created my suffering to begin with. Because healing from food addiction, anyone that struggles with weight, with sugar, with anything related to food, it's hard because this addiction is one that the world says it's okay to have.
Yeah.
Right? We eat 3 meals a day. We celebrate everything with food. Like if you took a calendar and you said, what are the days that it's okay for me to eat all that sugar, fat, whatever, you would have you'd have the weekends, you'd have birthdays, you'd have holidays. Oh, it's Thursday night, I'm going out with my friends. Oh, it's Friday night. Oh, wait, it's I'm tired. I need ice cream, right? Saturday night, let's go out for dinner, right? If you looked at a calendar for food addiction, it's like, when do you have time to be better?
Hmm.
The whole world revolves around food.
It does.
So it's a tough one. It's a tough one. And in fact, I have a brother who's in recovery from heroin, and he was arguing with me. We were arguing over which is a harder addiction. And then we decided that was a silly argument, right? Because they're both hard in their own way.
And the thing is again, we have a culture and society that basically almost encourages us to do what we shouldn't be doing.
Hmm.
And they encourage us to the point now where, it wasn't just a pill. Now you got a shot that you can take to help you lose the weight. And
Right.
it's like all you're doing is you're treating a symptom. And so my question to a person who's dealing with that is what's really going on?
Yes.
Why do you eat? Why do you smoke? Why do you drink? Why do you do all this stuff?
Hmm.
And that's where the old line from a generation whatever is that's where the shoe leather hits the pavement. And sometimes people will run away from that because they find out stuff about themselves that it can get ugly. But to
Hmm.
understand, we need to be compassionate toward ourselves. And we
Yeah.
need to understand that we're trying to work through this in the best way that we possibly can.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So if we kind of know what awareness is. It's right when you become, whatever the way you get aware, right? But it's
Hmm.
becoming acutely aware that something needs to change or that something needs to be created, right? Because we could see it in different ways. Just something is happening. And I think it's our soul that is making us aware, right? Because if we are divine beings having a human being experience, then we have to really honor the fact that our soul has a lot of input into this lifetime. And whether we're open to hearing it or we're drowning ourselves in our secondary addictions, it's still happening, whether
Hmm.
you want to hear it or not. And
Yeah.
so I always say awareness is our soul talking to us. It's when your intuition is off the chart about something that you know you have to. For me, it was a kind of like almost a near-death experience,
Mm.
if I can call it that. I don't know, because I really thought I was falling apart there physically. Um, and so that's awareness. But the next one is commitment,
Hmm.
right? What commitment? If I had to choose another word for commitment, it would be devotion.
Mm.
Like
Okay.
devotion is a very big word. We think it's so devotion, right? Like I am truly committed to this. I am devoted to this.
Yeah.
Whatever this is, right? What am I going to do? How am I going to get better? And so it was in therapy. I was studying with spiritual teachers. I was reading, listening to podcasts. Like I was committed to understanding my trauma. So here we're still in the inner world, right? Awareness,
Hmm.
commitment. What is it that was making me have my addiction? And so that's commitment. It's like I'm going to do this. Another example I give is the writing of the book Harmony. I was at Kripalu, right? And I hear harmony. And then I hear it's the steps we gave you a while ago, the ones we told you on the train. I could have been like, "Oh, that's cool. Thanks so much. Thanks for sharing with me. I'm so lucky I get to hear you," right? No, I made a commitment that I would take that information and write a book.
Mm.
And writing a book is a very big commitment. And
Hmm.
what am I going to do to get it from there to here, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
what am I going to do, right? And so the commitment was that I would write every single day for an hour for a year until I finished that book. I don't know if it was a year or longer, but that was my commitment, my devotion to completing this information that had been given to me so that I could share it out here.
So, is there a chronological order to reading your book? I'm going to guess it goes through the six
It
points that.
does. It does. It goes through the 6 points. I talk about them from just, defining them. I also talk about them because I just live them also at the seniors job bank, right? Like I became aware, really came aware that the position was open. My husband was on a networking meeting upstairs and he yelled downstairs, "Hey, Robin, the seniors job bank executive director position is open. You should apply for it." And I'm like, okay, universe, is that like a sign? Because I used to be really bad with signs from the universe. I would hear something and I'd be like, when? Now? How high? Jump? right? Like I would be like, am I doing this now? And that actually caused a lot of confusion for me. I didn't have the patience to allow things to unfold because what if I had taken those 6 elements 4 years ago and wrote a book? It wouldn't have been harmony.
Mm,
In the 6 stages of spiritual success. Not that that's not important, but that's one piece of this,
it
right?
is.
It's
Yeah.
one piece. It wouldn't have had the mind if I hadn't stepped back out into the everyday world, right? And saw people struggling and needing money and addressing loneliness and addressing financial insecurity and all of these things that people in who are of a certain age, we call them mature workers for many reasons, because they're wicked mature and they're older, right? And so if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have been ready to write harmony. Like we have to recognize that we're never too late, Kevin. We're not late for anything. It's just all unfolding. Everything is unfolding. And so if you cannot live with regret, because living with regret makes you live in the past. And we don't want to live with regret and we don't want to live in fear of the future. We just want to live right now. And that's where all the really cool stuff is right now, right? Like if you're living in the present moment, having this conversation, me having this conversation with you, this is so great for me, right? This is what I want and dreamed of. But if I was regretting, oh, I should have wrote that book 4 years ago. Oh my God, what am I writing next? Like, who cares? When it's time for me to write the next book, I sure as heck will know it because it will come with the same spiritual 2x4 that all the other ones came with, right? So right now it's time to be of service, which is the fourth one. But I want to go back to mastery because I shared with you that when I finished, I was so scared. There was something fearful of in me that I couldn't talk about these. I didn't know how to talk about them. I wasn't in mastery. So mastery is the embodiment of everything that you're learning,
Hmm. Okay.
right? That's
Yeah.
mastery. It's pretty simple. It's simple in words. It's very difficult to embody it. And it took me at least a month to embody these teachings, maybe more, of meditating every day, thinking, oh my God, these are the simplest words. Why can't you get this? Beating myself up, like, what is going on with you? But again, I think that was part of the divine timing, right? I
Mm-hmm.
had to be comfortable enough to not only talk about these words, but to talk about how I got these words. Because I'm putting myself out there by saying I was in a car and words came in the car,
Yeah.
right? People are like, what the heck is she
Yeah.
saying? Right? So that's mastery, right? When you embody your teaching, when you embody what you came here to do. And I will say this, and Kevin, back me up on this. We all are here to teach what we came to learn,
Hmm. Absolutely. Totally.
right?
And I even say it in the introduction of the podcast that this is like a school.
Yeah.
And I remember a mentor of mine many years ago, that was one of his almost mantras that he would say is just remember life is a school.
Yes.
And we are here to learn to be better human beings. We're here to learn how to be a better soul.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, in the reincarnation point, you can say that, yeah, well, if we don't get it this time, we'll get it next time. But it's like the thing too is going back a little bit, and you were talking about how the universe will knock on our door a couple of times, and if we don't pay attention, there's going to be that third time, and we really are not going to enjoy that. But I kind of think sometimes is when if we take that premise, if as it were, of reincarnation. Well, I'm not, if I don't learn it now, I'll learn it later. Yeah, but it could be an easier lesson this go
Yeah.
around.
Good
You
time.
know.
So what you're saying reminds me of my first book, which is Messiah Within. And this was a book that I was asked to write from Yeshua. from as most people know him as Jesus. And other spiritual people were like, Yeshua wants to talk to you. This was like way early in my journey, right? Spiritual journey. I'm like, okay, have him call me. Like, I didn't even know who he was. So,
Give me a shout.
like, what do you mean have him call
Your
you,
people
Robin?
can talk with my people.
They're like, do you know who he is? And I'm like, no. And so then I'm like, oh no, that can't be possible. And then I was afraid, I was intimidated, right? And I started looking to see what are his teachings, and what do I believe, and what do we have in common? I was trying to find some commonality so that I could feel very comfortable receiving guidance from him. And so I realized that we both believe deeply in a sense of oneness, that we're all one with the divine. And what he said is, I really meant it when I said that the kingdom of God resides within.
Yeah.
It's a truth, right?
Hmm.
And so the book that he asked me to write is called Messiah Within, which
Okay.
is a big leap because most people on this planet think he is the Messiah. In Judaism, uh, there's a belief that the Messiah hasn't even come yet.
Yeah.
And so here I am putting out this book, Messiah Within. Like, hey, you are the Messiah of your own life.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh gosh, I don't know if I want to put that out. So what happened was I couldn't figure out what it was. There were 12 steps, remember, divisible by three.
Hmm.
Um, 12 steps to becoming the Messiah within. What happened when I received those 12 steps in a message, I had only lived 10 of them. I
Mm.
hadn't lived the other two. Like I had been on a very spiritual fast track coming out of corporate. And I'm thinking, well, how will I know when I live the 11th or 12th one? How will I know? And I realized that again, those first 10 were really hard because they were so important to my life and to my soul's journey. And then I'd be like, oh, is this number 11? And I'd be like, no. And then when 11 came, it was like 11, right? And when 12, is it 12? No, I don't think so. 12, 12, right? Like they came like boom, boom, the spiritual two by fours. And so I don't know what I agreed to. I do know what happened. When I was coming out of corporate, stood on my deck for almost a year asking the same question. How can I be of greater service to mankind?
Mm.
Every day for a year. And I could feel a presence with me, but I didn't know what it was. And frankly, I was afraid. So I'm not turning, I'm not looking. It just feels like I'm not alone out here asking this question. And then I went on my spiritual fast track. And the first 10, when I heard them, I'm like, oh, I'd live that. I'd live that on my path. Oh, I live that. I live that all the way up to 10. I'm like, oh, I didn't live 11 and 12. How will I know? And so that's what I'm saying to you, that just giving you an example of what you were sharing right before, is that these things come and you need to be in awareness. And then you need
Right.
to be in commitment to live, and then you need to embody them, right? Because they're your truth, they're your healing, they're your lessons, they're your teachings.
Yeah.
And then you embody them, and then you can move to service. What am I going to do with this information? How am I going to share it with others? Am I going to quietly just share it by being very gracious in the world? Am I going to share those teachings by letting people get in front of me at the grocery store because their cart is less than mine?
Mm.
Right? Or am I going to come on Kevin's podcast? Right? The extremes of how we can serve in this world is up to us. Not everybody has to receive messages and then put them out in a book or go on a podcast or have their own podcast. It's how we are being in the world. And I say being because it's not doing, it's being. Because
Hmm.
when we are being, when we are human beings, divine divine beings having a human being experience, not a human doing experience, we can serve in a way that feels the most comfortable to us. Maybe we're going to teach children to be the best human beings they can be. Maybe we're nurses, maybe we're carpenters. It doesn't matter. Maybe we're here to not work in the real in the in the workplace, but raise children who are brilliant and kind, and they will be out in the world doing things. Not everything serves.
Yeah.
Everything serves if you do it from your most genuine place.
And that's the place of being.
That's the place of being. Right.
Yep.
Right.
And that seems to be an undercurrent theme that I've been experiencing my own self of late. And I've had some guests, we've talked about this, that, you know, just learn how to be. And that is there's so much there. If we just learn how to be where we are, and how many times have we heard the stories about, if you focus on the past, you're going to be filled with regret. And if
Mhm.
you live too much in the future, you're going to be in a state of constant, I don't know, judgment.
Judgment and worry,
Yeah,
right?
that's it. Worry. That's the word. Thanks so much, because that's the word I needed. And yet, if we just learn how to be and become a being in the moment,
Yeah.
there's so much to be said for that. And how many different philosophies do we know of in the world that really
Yeah.
do talk about that? But how often do we actually do it?
Yes, it's and honestly, when you're there, like it is so my husband had a health issue this winter, which meant I took over walking the dog. In years past, like it's too cold for me. My favorite winter sport was running from the car into the house. And so I am not the dog walker. This year, I've had the most magnificent winter because
Mm,
I've been outside in every -20 wind chill, snow, right? Like the dog has to go to the bathroom. And I am loving it. Like something that I thought I would hate, being in the present moment in winter, is something that I didn't realize what kind of gifts Mother
yeah.
Nature gives us in the winter. Like for me, it was always like, oh, when is spring coming? And then in fall, I'd be like, oh, it's fall, winter's coming. Right now,
Mm,
I don't have to do that anymore because I can look forward to winter. And I'm so glad that I finally figured what everybody else has been figuring out, who's been snow skiing and,
yeah.
whatever, hiking. Um, but yeah, so when we talk about service, I'd love to talk about leadership now.
Yes.
'Cause we talked about service. Oh, I wanted to say one thing about worry. I'm going to go back there for just a sec. In the teachings of Abraham Hicks, this is my favorite Abraham Hicks teaching. This is all about the law of attraction and attract. So what you think, feel, believe, know, act on is what you will manifest in your
Sure.
life. So be careful what you ask for, because
Hmm.
most of us ask for things we don't want. Like, oh, I don't think I have enough money to pay my bills. That's like asking for what you don't want. You would ask for, I am abundant and I will have enough money to pay my bills and donate if I want
Hmm.
to my favorite charity. Like that's asking for what you want. So, but in the teachings, they say worrying is like praying for what you don't want.
Mm,
It's like that to me is whenever I start to worry, I'm like, oh, I'm praying for what I don't want because
mm,
I'm focusing my energy on it. And
yep.
we know what you focus on is what you manifest.
That's it.
So I just wanted to share that. But moving on so we did awareness, commitment, mastery, service. Now we're on leadership. And leadership, I thought was really interesting. It's really about self leadership first. Are you the walking example of your teachings of what you believe in? Like, do you actually, when people meet you, and that was part of it too. Prior to starting Harmony, I had two people say exactly the same thing to me, two separate people. And that is, geez, Robin, you're so calm and peaceful. I'd love to be you when I grow up. And I'm like, why did they just say the same thing two times? Universe, I hear you. I just don't know what to do with it. So don't spiritual two by for me. Just letting you know I'm in awareness. I just don't know what I'm doing with it. And that was before I heard Harmony. So I knew something was coming. I knew something was coming for me to do. So am I the walking example of harmony? I try, right? I do my healing. I try to do the teachings that most resonate with me. I am, and I've embodied them so that I can serve them, teach them, live them, be them. And then being them, being all of it is out in the world is leadership. So
Hmm.
first it starts with me being it, and then it's how am I leading others? And yes, again, I don't have to be the executive director of the seniors job bank. I can just be Robin being kind in the store when other people are yelling at someone. I can be like, geez, it looks like you're having a tough day. Is there something I can do to help? Right? That's leadership. That is truly leadership, recognizing, acknowledging, and seeing what you can do to help. And so that's leadership. And I try to do that. Um, so here, when we got to service, I sort of turned the corner from inside to outside,
Yeah.
right? I was working on my inner world. Now I'm working on my outer world, which then when I can lead with the teachings that I know and who I am and do something that really lights me up at work if I can, if I have the opportunity.
Yep.
But it doesn't matter, even if I don't, it's who I am at work, right?
Yeah.
Then that leads to freedom, which is the alignment of those two things, inner and outer world. And then freedom is what's important to you,
Mm,
right? It's not what do I not have to do? It's what can I do? Like what can I have in my life that is important to me?
mm,
And for me, it's because I'm doing all of these things, it's just allowing myself to have what's important to me, good health, um, experiences, things like that, feeling like feeling authentic, that what I said earlier, like what you see is what you get. Because if I'm the same on the inside than I am on the outside, then I don't have to worry um about, who am I going to be when I step into any room and who am I going to be when I close my eyes.
mm.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
It's me. It's me. It's me. It's almost like we're living our soul outside,
That's it. That's it.
right?
Yeah.
On the
Yeah.
outside, right? And that's what I aspire to do.
Well, I think that's a what you've shared as a synopsis of the book is very, very helpful, and I can see where so many can benefit from this. Just learning how to work within freedom within these different aspects that you're talking about, and it can be so very, very helpful. It's I know, and time is slipping, but the
Yeah.
thing that I noticed too is if we go to your website, you've got some
Yeah.
different opportunities that are presented there.
Oh,
So you give yourself as an offering to be a speaker, and have you
yeah.
got some projects or things like that coming up in the near future, like the next, I don't know, 6 or 8 weeks, and like I don't know, webcasts, speaking engagements, anything that you want to
Yes,
share with our folks?
I'll be on a lot of podcasts coming up, and folks can, find them after they're published on my website there. I
Sure.
also write, I don't know if anybody's on Substack. I
Mm-hmm.
do something called Reflections, and I love that. I see things in the world and then I'm guided to write about them like, well, how does harmony apply here? And so these are just different real life examples of where harmony how you apply harmony to any given situation. I also have an offering on there called the Akashic Harmony Message, and I just launched that last week. Um, it's a pretty inexpensive tool to you put in if you have a life question and what is your intention, and then I will produce for you a written report that you can have that you can just read over and over again. And the other day I had a life question and I did one for myself and I put it on my nightstand and I'm just reading it every night before I go to bed
Okay.
to because there's still some residual fear inside of me. So what was the heart of my trauma pattern was my fear of humiliation and shame.
Mm,
And in many times in my life, I had been humiliated and shamed, and even things that you wouldn't even think about as a something like my dad washed his car, and there were six of us, and he had each of us put our little hand up on the car to see whose handprint that was on his clean car. And of course, mine matched, but it wasn't me. And he had me go in the room for the rest of the day. And I think I screamed. My mom said I screamed the whole day. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. And so those type of things that happen in our life create shame, right? A fear of being humiliated. And so I did this exercise. There's a book called The Big Leap by
mm,
Gay Hendricks. And it talks about when you live in your zone of brilliance, like what you're good at, and then your zone of genius. And there's an upper limit belief in between. And for me, it was that if I made myself too public, I would be humiliated and shamed. And so I started working on that. And I came up with this knowing is so incredibly clear. No one can humiliate me unless I give them the title of judge.
yep.
And if I don't do that, I can either say, screw you or thank you or whatever it is I want to say, but they can't humiliate me. And that getting to the core of that upper limit belief was what allowed me to step into what Gay Hendricks calls my zone of genius and be able to come out here and talk about what I've learned and my teachings. And so I'm hopeful that this Akashic Harmony message will give people this written report will give them the foundation to be able to do the work that needs to be done in order to live their genius, which is their soul's genius.
Yeah. Well, I know that in your on your website, and there's going to be a link in the show notes for it, is just it's just Robin H. Clare, CLARE.com. And there's so many opportunities there. You have offerings, podcast, speaker, and so
Yeah,
forth, and reflections. And I know under offerings, if people are interested in doing what you're talking about, it's clearly stated right there, Akashic
yeah.
Harmony message.
Yeah, and
And
it's also on the homepage.
mhm,
And if you can't remember my name, you can also get to my homepage, my website by putting in Harmony with Robin.
okay.
Yeah.
So it's when we're looking at all the different opportunities that are here, I'm going to say too that we'll also have in there about how to connect with you because you have so many different ways that you can help folks and help folks to help themselves is what I hear.
Mhm.
And that's so important that we do that. I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
What do you do to create a better life for yourself?
Oh, for me, yes.
I know
So
walking the dog in the winter is one,
walking
but
the dog is really, I love that. I love connecting to Mother Earth. That's
mm,
very important to me. I go out, we have a pond. We live in a place called Pond Place, and we
mm,
have a pond. And I go to the pond every morning and I pray. And I stand by the pond and I pray, and that helps ground my day. I try to focus on my own wellness. I'm not a crazy wellness, but I
yeah,
try really hard. I try to stay connected to family and friends. I try to always be of service. I try to be kind. Um, yeah, I try to live the teachings, Kevin.
There you go. Perfect. That
Yeah.
that that works.
Yes,
Well, this has certainly been inspiring, and I'll even thank your guide helper that gave you that, because it's such a
thank you.
powerful message. It really is. And you got other books on your site that
I do.
people can definitely look at. So this has been a wonderful experience, and I certainly do thank you ever so much, Robin, for being a guest on the program today.
Yes, Kevin, thank you. This was really fun and interesting, and I appreciate you.
Well, that's our show for this week. I do hope you enjoyed my chat with Robin Clare and her thoughts on living a life of harmony. For more information about Robin, her work, and her books, visit her website, robinclaire.com. There is a link in the show notes. And as always, my deepest gratitude to you, dear listener, for tuning in to the program. Remember, if you're seeking any insights or advice on how to create that better life for yourself, and if you'd like to dive into self-care, self-development, experience hypnotherapy, distant shamanic work, Reiki, drop me a line, kevin@towardaBetterLife.com, for your free discovery call. As I've mentioned before, in that discovery call, we look at you individually, because each one of us is unique for ourselves, and each one of us has our own path. And so in that discovery call, we can begin to uncover and find that path for your life through discussion of goals, plans, achieving them, how to achieve them, and moving forward with your own journey toward a better life. You can also visit my website, towardaBetterLife.com, for past episodes, blog entries, ways to enhance your spiritual journey, and upcoming events. Please subscribe and follow Toward a Better Life through your favorite podcast platform, and do leave a review if you would. Apple, Spotify, Overcast, whatever your podcast platform may be. And don't forget to check out Toward a Better Life on Patreon, where we offer ad-free episodes to paid subscribers. It's available, and as that paid subscriber, you can enjoy not only the episodes without advertisements, you can also check it out for other things that are involved, like discounts for services that I offer and so forth. Now, all you need to do is just visit Patreon and search for Toward a Better Life podcast, and there's a link in the show notes. Always remember, if you'd like to share your story, music, prose, or what have you, or you want to be my guest, just write to me, kevin@towardaBetterLife.com. I do read every email that comes through, and I do evaluate them, so go ahead and send it on. Until next week, do enjoy your very special journey, your personal journey toward a better life.